Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Missy and today I'm going to be talking about my birth story, my home birth story. So fun fact, my very first YouTube video was about my home birth story with my first son. I will link it below. Caution, I was very nervous and I think I did it on my iPhone 6. So the quality is not really as great as I'm filming currently on my Canon. I'll leave it up to you if you want to watch it below. You will not hurt my feelings if you do not watch it. It is not my best work. But anyway, back to this sweet little one here. I've got her sleeping. She's about 3 weeks old at this point. I am now up and mobile, feeling a little bit more like myself, more and more every day. But I just wanted to put out my birth story quickly before I forget anything. So let's just rewind to when this little one was born, March 6th, but I'm going to back up one day to March 5th. Saturday, March 5th, I was super duper pregnant, very uncomfortable. So at that point I was 40 weeks and 3 days, and I just wanted this baby out. I was expecting her or him, we didn't know the sex. I was expecting them to come around week 38 in my mind because that's when my son came. And 38 weeks came and went. So I was trying all sorts of things. I was trying walking. I was trying spicy foods. Was there anything else I tried to get this little one out? I can't remember. But I went to my chiropractor on Thursday and she's very holistic as well. She has twins she had naturally at home, and she has, I think she has 5 kids total, and she's pregnant again. And she was telling me, pump. She was like, get your breast pump out and pump. She's like, it will induce labor, let me tell you. So she told me, and I did exactly what she said, is to wait till Paul went to sleep so I was a little bit more calm, and to do it at night because your hormones are different at night. And I put a warm, wet washcloth on both breasts. I just put like my nursing bra on and just let them sit there for about 15 minutes. And then I took one side at a time, took the washcloth off. I pumped, it wasn't very high, very low setting on mine, for about 15 minutes, and then put the washcloth back, and then take the washcloth out the other side and pump on the other side. I was actually shocked that I got something out. I was expecting nothing to happen. As I was pumping, I didn't feel anything. Some women go into labor or start feeling contractions right then and there. Nothing happened. This was about 10 o'clock on Saturday. So we just went to bed like normal, and around 1:30, I woke up to contractions, and I knew exactly what it was. It was contractions in my abdomen, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. But I had read that pumping will induce contractions, and sometimes they stay and sometimes they last for a little bit, and then, you know, you may not go into labor that day, but you're more likely to get contractions than anything. Will it go into labor? Nobody knows. Will it not? So for me, I was just like, okay, let me try to sleep as much as I can. So I woke up around 3:30 and I had to use the bathroom. So I went into the bathroom and I was just kind of like Googling stuff, and then I started texting my doulas to let them know that I pumped and I'm having contractions. And I texted my baby sister. I take this back, it's probably more like 4 in the morning. She works at Panera, so she gets up super duper early. So I texted my sisters, and my little sister Kelly texted me back and was like, oh my god, that's so exciting, you know. And I wasn't expecting anybody to text me back. And then I texted my 2 girlfriends who were going to come here to let them know, hey, I'll call you when something more exciting happens, but just FYI, I'm having contractions. So then from my Bradley method training, I knew to try to get as much rest as possible. So I laid back down and tried to sleep. I couldn't. I was more out of excitement than anything. At this point, the contractions are very mild, like basically like menstruation cramps is what they were, a little bit more. So around 5, I decided, well, I can't sleep because I'm too excited. So I decided to go downstairs and eat something while I still felt good. So I came downstairs and stood at the island. I think this is around 5:30, and I had hard-boiled egg, an English muffin, and maybe some tea, I think. And I was standing while I was eating, and I was just getting really uncomfortable. So I was able to eat everything, and then I went back upstairs, and I think that's when I told Matt. I either told Matt before I went, no, I think I told Matt before I went downstairs. Excuse my post-prego brain. I did wake Matt up and let him know that, hey, we're in labor, but don't worry, calm down. You know, try to get as much sleep as you can. I'm gonna go downstairs and eat something. Paul snuck over. Let me just see if he's okay. Okay, so where were we? I told Matt that I was having contractions around 5 a.m.-ish. I went downstairs. I had a small breakfast. I went back upstairs. I think I had intended to take a shower, and I never got to it. I should have showered. I regretted that afterwards because it was like my hair washing day. But anyway, so I didn't shower, and then I started calling. I called the birth center. I called the birth center and let the midwife on call, who was Nancy. She's wonderful. And I told her that, hey, I'm having contractions. I think this is the real deal. I did another video week 38. I thought I was having I was having false labor, or there's another name for it. They're basically contractions to move the baby, and we had like everybody here. The nurse, the midwife, my friends, the doula, like we thought it was go time, and then it ended up not being go time. So I told her, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm in labor at this point. And she was like, all right, let me know when things get a little closer, more strong. She asked me how far apart my contractions were. And with Paul too, my contractions were just kind of like all over the place and not really indicative of anything, which is not very helpful. Still tracking my contractions. I started that from the beginning. I didn't mention that. I'm upstairs. I called the birth center. I actually called my doulas to let them know. The doula that came with Paul was actually on vacation at the Outer Banks, so which was fine because the other doula, Garland, that the two of them own a company I absolutely adore. So it didn't stress me out one bit that Bethany wasn't available, but Garland was. So I called Garland and told her what was going on, and she was like, okay, just calm down, try to relax, you know, what have you. So I laid in bed, and then I started getting where like little things bother me that normally don't. So Matt, even just walking around the room, I mean, not that our room shakes, but like just the small vibrations were irritating me, and like I didn't want him touching me at that point. So I was just laying there on my left side with my eyes closed, breathing through contractions. And then I touched base with the midwife, and she was just telling me like, you know, I think you're okay. You know, we'll just wait another hour or so. Then I touched base with the doula, and I was talking to her, and she's like, well, how do you feel? And I said, I can still talk through the contractions, but they're getting intense. And she was like, okay, I'm going to shower and get ready, because she was an hour away. She's like, is it okay if you give me like 20, 30 minutes? And I said, I think so. So, and it's so funny because as this is going on, like time goes by so fast. So I'm having contractions, and then all of a sudden with one of the contractions, I felt the need to like push, and I was like, oh my God. So I called Matt. He runs upstairs, and I tell him, you need to call the birth center, and you need to call the doula and tell them something's happening. I need them to be here right now. And this is about 9 a.m. So he, at this point, 20, 30 minutes had already passed. So my doula was like almost in the car anyway. So she was on her way, and we called the midwife as well. She's also an hour away, and she's like, I'm in the car. I'm on my way, and the nurses are coming too. So we had a nurse practitioner here and then a midwife in training here as well. They were both amazing. I loved everybody in my like women tribe that helped me bring this sweet little girl into the world. It looks like she's face planting my chest, but she's fine. Her nose is not smothered in my chest, just in case you were wondering. Okay, so where were we? Everybody was kind of on their way. This is about 9 a.m. Contractions are getting more strong, and I am doing my contractions in 2 positions. One of them was kind of, I have a tall dresser in my room, so I was kind of standing and leaning over and breathing through them. At this point, I can't speak through them. I have to just focus completely on these contractions, and I was swaying. And the other one was, I was on my knees, and I would lean over my bed, almost in like a prayer position, kind of. And I had my hands like this, and I'd breathe through contractions, and Matt was kind of like with me, running downstairs to make sure Paul was okay. And, oh, I also called my girlfriends and let them know. No, I didn't. I texted them and said, you know, the contractions are getting whatever. Matt actually texted or called both of them and said, I need you guys here. So I didn't know that till afterwards. So they were on their way. They got here first. We took a couple pictures, you know, made sure everything, they were just amazing. They were helping with Paul. I don't even know what the intention of having them here. They just made me feel better knowing they're in my house. These are my friends from college. They're really, really like my sisters. really. If I can't have my blood sisters here, I definitely want Audrey and Becca here. They're just calming. It's really, you get to the point where the lines between friends and family are blurred. That's how these wonderful women are with me. So they were here just checking up on me. And then my girlfriend brought her daughter who just turned 10. She was here as well. And she was basically playing with Paul. So they were occupying Paul while everything was going on around 9 or 10 a.m. Everybody started kind of showing up. So that's when things started happening. And my doula had recommended that I try some different positions. So one of the positions that she tried was sitting on the toilet facing the wall. And at that point, since everybody was there, she told me that if I had the urge to bear down or push, to go ahead. And I just had this fear at this point. Like I was scared to push down. I don't know why, it's hard to explain. We did that for a while. I did the positions there for a while, and then I wanted to go back to the bed. So I had a lot of contractions on the toilet, and then I decided I really wanted to move to my bed. I had envisioned giving birth laying down in bed like I did with Paul. Nice. So with Paul, I had actually laid down and given birth that way. So that's the way I kind of envisioned giving birth to her. So we tried that at first and nothing was happening. At this point, my water hadn't broke either, but I was dilated. I don't remember how much I was dilated. So the midwives and doula and nurse practitioner, after a while, recommended that I switch positions. Okay, he has pretzels. He is distracted now. Anyway, so I was laying down trying to push like that. Essentially, yes, I was pushing at this point. Nothing was happening. And I wasn't uber comfortable anyway. So since my water hadn't broken yet, the midwives recommended that I go on all fours. And I was like, I can't. I was really tired at that point. I literally thought I could not. And the doula, midwife, nurse practitioner, and midwife in training were all just like, yes, you can, mama. You can do it. And it's just, that's why I just love this atmosphere for giving birth more than a hospital. Not that I can compare it to a hospital because I've never been, but what I envision a hospital being like. So they got me on all fours, and then we literally stacked up every single pillow that I had into like a pillow tower, and I was leaning on it like this with my arms and my head, and Matt was on one side and my doula was on the other, and they were just kind of like, you know, rubbing my shoulders and encouraging me. I remember pushing like with like all my force. I was like, this is happening. So after being in that position, I remember it happened fast, but like I said, time is going so crazy at this point. But my midwife later said it happened really fast. My water broke, and that actually made me feel better for some reason. I feel like there was just like a lot of pressure, and she told me that I had a lot of amniotic fluid. So the water broke, and then with baby girl, with Paul, they were kind of quiet, and I just, if you watch my video, I didn't really do much. I was letting my body just kind of do anything, and my midwife was even just like, you know, trust your body. I wasn't forcing any pushing, but with her I was. And the midwife, who's just different, you know, every midwife's going to be slightly different. Nancy was just kind of like, you know, bear down. I really want you to try to bear down, really push. So I was pushing, and she came out pretty fast. And she did have the umbilical wrapped around her neck and her body, but the midwife, you know, got it off right away, so she was fine. And she came out, and then I kind of stood up. I don't remember if they told me to do that or if I just, not stood up, but like, you know, like I said, I was on all fours with my head on the pillow, and I just leaned up, so I was straight, but I was still on my knees, if that makes sense. And they handed me her through my legs, so her umbilical cord is still attached. And I was able to hold her like within seconds. And it was just such an amazing feeling. It was just to hold your baby for the first time is amazing. So they did a couple things to then lay down. So now I laid down. Paul's back. Baby's still attached at this point because we wanted the delayed cord cutting. She was still attached to me, and we just tried to breastfeed, and she breastfed right away. Like, no, I didn't even have to like help her get my nipple in her mouth or anything. She just latched right on. It was crazy. I did not have that experience with Paul. I definitely had to work for it. She was breastfeeding. I was, you know, in like cloud 9 happiness. Matt was amazing and just super happy. We were ecstatic to have this baby. then, you know, my midwife was like, okay, we need to get the placenta out. So again, I'm not really focused on that. I'm focused on this sweet little thing that I got. So I'm trying to push, and it's one of those where I'm pushing and I'm like, is anything happening? And she's like, no. So I wasn't even remotely worried about it until the policy of the birth center is after an hour of your placenta not coming out, you get transferred to the hospital, because what was happening with me was my placenta was not coming out and I was hemorrhaging a lot. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea this was even really happening, except for them, you know, telling me to keep pushing. So after about, I think it was about 30 minutes of nothing happening, they asked if they could give me a shot of Pitocin, and I was like, this little girl's already out. Do whatever you want to me. So they gave me a shot of Pitocin in my leg. Didn't hurt at all. I didn't feel anything like dramatically happen. I tried to push for X amount of time. Nothing's happening. And the nurse practitioner was like, do you want to give her another shot? They asked if they gave me another shot. And at this point, I don't want to be transferred to the hospital. I already had my baby. The chances are they wouldn't even let my baby in with me in the hospital. So I was like, whatever you guys have to do to get this out. I got a second shot of Pitocin, and then I was really pushing. So I think at this point, still nothing was happening. They cut the cord at some point during this. Matt did it. And then Matt took Tilly and did some skin to skin while they really worked on me to try to get the placenta out, because keep in mind, I'm still bleeding. So this is about 45 minutes at this point. And they asked me, it was my midwife's idea. She was like, you know what? We're going to flip you over and we're going to do all fours again. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't do this. I am so tired. I just had this baby. I've essentially been, oh, did I tell you what time she was born? Sorry, rewind. She was born at 11:57 a.m. on Sunday. So I had been in contractions from 1 a.m. to almost noon. So 11 hours of contractions. I was very, very tired. Then she tells me, I want you to go on all fours to get the placenta out. And I was like, I can't do it. I'm so tired. And they were all like, you got it, mama, come on. So they all kind of helped me. You know, they're like rubbing my back, get you all on all fours. And they're like, you can do it. You can do it. And I think it came out pretty quickly. I pushed and my placenta came out. So that was a relief, because I did not want to go to the hospital. And she told me later that I had about 600 cc's of blood loss. I Googled it. It's about a pint. So it was a significant amount. And if they had left the placenta in, I was just going to keep bleeding, which I looked up later is actually pretty scary. I didn't realize it at the time, how scary that is, that if your placenta doesn't come out, that's really bad. And I'm really kind of curious what would have happened at the hospital. Like, would I have gotten surgery, or would they have like done something else to get it out? I don't know. So I avoided that, but that's good. So placenta's out, flip back on my back. Now they're just trying to clean me up. And at this point then she assessed me for perineal tearing. So I had a tear, I don't know what the actual medical term was, but it was a long one. It went from my vagina to my anus, and it was a 1-degree tear, meaning it was very superficial. And she asked me, do you want me to give you like 2 stitches, or do you want me to just leave it? And I said, leave it. So I, at this point, just want to be like under covers resting. So she just told me to, you know, I had already told them about my 2-week bed rest. She said, I definitely need 2 days bed rest. It'll take 48 hours for my body to recover the blood loss. And she told me just to keep my legs together and really try to pamper myself over those 2 weeks so that that small tear can heal. So that was the tearing situation. So then they're sitting there, they're doing, you know, writing up their charts and whatnot. And I'd say maybe like an hour or so had passed from that time. And then they get you up to pee. So I had to walk from Matt's side of the bed, because that's where I was, around the bed to the bathroom and sit on the toilet. As we were walking, my head started getting hot. And I remember I got lightheaded with Paul walking to the bathroom as well. So I remember sitting on the toilet and I just told her I don't feel good. And I had a ringing in my ears. And they all kind of like flocked to me. And I didn't know till later. Matt told me I passed out. So I passed out on the toilet. And Matt was holding Tilly at the time. And I think, I mean, this is what I'm getting secondhand. The doula actually rushed to Matt and was like, here, let me take her. You go help your wife, because they were going to potentially lay me on the floor and lift my feet up. And they needed Matt's help to do that. But luckily I just passed out for like a minute, less than a minute, and then came back to. And somebody had got me orange juice, which is always really good. It really helps me with Paul getting back. I guess the sugar in it. So somebody got me a glass of orange juice and I drank that and I started instantly feeling better. They said my color came back. So we sat in the toilet. I did the first pee, which is always kind of scary. And then they got my diaper ready and they kind of cleaned me up. I had some blood on my legs. And then I was wearing, you know, all the stuff I talked about in my postpartum prep video. I had the Depends diaper. I had the Freedom Mom ice pack. I had the perineal witch hazel liner and the perineal foam. And we put all of that on and I laid in bed with this sweet little girl. Everybody left around 3, I think it was. What I had one of my girlfriends do was take out of the freezer. I had made some like warm freezer meals because the book that I had read, The First 40 Days, talked about the importance of like your first meal being something warm, like not like ice cream or like a smoothie. So they recommended something like soups and stews. It was actually kind of chilly that day anyway. So I had prepped a freezer meal of beef stew. So I had my girlfriend take that out and thawed. Matt threw it in the Instapot for about, I think it was like an hour. I don't remember what the cooking time was. Not that that matters. So Matt made the beef stew and Paul got to meet Tilly and my girlfriends were amazing and they left. The doula left, the midwife left, everybody kind of around 3 o'clock. Everybody was tired, but so excited to meet this sweet little girl. And I had my stew. And then we just stayed with this sweet little girl all day. I did not leave the bed. I really needed Matt's assistance getting to the toilet, and he had to stay by the toilet just to make sure. Just walking from the bed to my bathroom for about 2 days, I was very weak, dizzy. I'd get like stars and stuff. I did not experience that at all with Paul, so I'm guessing that's from the blood loss. So just trying to stay super duper hydrated. A little bit different birth than Paul. Took 11 hours. I had a lot of blood loss. I passed out. My placenta wasn't coming out. So those are pretty much the only problems that we had. She was perfect. She came out fine. Had this beautiful head too, because Paul's head was all like smushed from the birth canal. Even the doctor, the midwives and nurse were pointing out that she had like this perfect little round head. I don't know how that happened, but that was her entry into the world. And it's funny, and I think I mentioned it in my video, when I gave birth to Paul, it was fast and not as dramatic. And I remember thinking, like seconds after I birthed him, like I could do this again. And I remember after I gave birth with her, I had the same thoughts, but polar opposite. I remember thinking, I never want to do this again. This was hard. This was really hard. A lot of hard labor. I can absolutely empathize with women who get epidurals now because that was really hard. If I was in a hospital setting, oh my gosh, I'd be so tempted because for me, it never hurts. I never had any kind of tearing or sharp pain feeling, which I've heard a lot of women like talk about. It was just a lot of pressure. I felt like I was pushing and nothing was happening, which kind of just lowers your morale, especially when I was laying in bed pushing for I don't even know how long and literally nothing was happening. The baby wasn't moving. I wasn't getting any more dilated and my water hadn't broke. So I completely empathize with epidural women. If for some reason we were to have a third, which we're not, I would be like, I might do the epidural route this time. We would see. But we're done. We're just having these two. We've got the set, the little girl and the little boy. So we are very happy. Our little family feels complete now. With Mo too. I don't know, he was over here somewhere. I am doing really well, especially mental health wise. We didn't have anybody staying overnight this time. It was just us. So when everybody left, it was just me, Matt, Paul, and Mo, which is exactly what I wanted. Just a very intimate home, calm setting. We didn't have anybody else to worry about feeding or entertaining. I mean, not that we were entertaining, but you know, sheets and all that stuff. They didn't have any of that stress. It was just us. We got to relax, especially for the first 2 weeks. Like I said, I'm about 3 weeks postpartum now. We still haven't had any visitors. You know, it's still pandemic time. It's still kind of winter. It just was spring last weekend, I think. But you know, people are still getting sick. She hasn't had any kind of shots yet. So we're just kind of hiding out still. How long are we going to hide out? I don't know. We're just going to play it by ear till I'm ready. That was my wonderful little birth story with this little one. So she has been rocking the boat since day one. If you followed my pregnancy journey, you know I had horrific morning sickness with her till I think the first full trimester, if not into the second trimester. Didn't have that at all with Paul. She took 11 hours to come out, right? Anyway, she was worth all of the pain that I went through. It's all done, all behind me, and now we just get to enjoy this sweet little girl. So I'm very happy. If you have any questions, comments, or anything else, I'd love to hear from you, so leave me a comment below. Subscribe if you haven't, give this video a thumbs up so I know that you like it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.